Recording. There we go. All right. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you've given us, for our beautiful parish, our fantastic priests, and for all the people that are coming here and still coming here. Bless us so that we can have a beautiful new church. And thank you for Mary and all the apparitions she's given us. She's still trying to lead us to Christ, to help us in our life. And she's always pleading for us to pray, to fast, to read the Bible, to have communion, and all the things we need to get ourselves to heaven. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Okay, so we'll have a quick little summary here of Guadalupe. It was in 1531. Mary came and asked Juan Diego to ask the bishop to build a church. The tilma is over 500 years old now, or close to 500 years old. And they had over 8 million converts in 7 years because of the tilma. So here's the basilica. That would have looked like when you were there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the little,
very attractive.
yeah, it has a little tramway that goes. Here's the original church, the bigger earlier church, the next church that they built, and then of course the basilica, and a few people standing around. Walk. See some people going up on their knees.
I didn't at the time. No,
Yeah. So some people start from way over here on the right side and go all the way across the basilica on their knees.
And all, and they keep going.
Yeah. In reparation. Yeah. So there's the interior, and right in the middle is the picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Have you been there? You've been there. Mike, did you go? No. Okay. I haven't been there yet. So someday.
Actually, that's behind that altar.
Yeah, behind the altar, and there's a conveyor. Is it like 4 people wide? 2 people?
I think it's probably maybe about this wide as wide as this table.
Okay, so one,
but then it's long. It's probably 10, 12 feet long. And it moves kind of slow.
Yeah, maybe 2. So we come back, and y'all know the story. Juan Diego sees Mary appears to him as he's going around the mountain. She asks him to have a church built. It goes to the bishop the first time. The bishop asks for a sign. And then Juan Diego goes up to the mountain, and Mary says, pick the roses, this is in December. So not only there shouldn't be roses in December, but there shouldn't even be roses up on this rocky hill.
I was going to tell you that you get on it at one end and get off the other, but the picture's here.
Yeah.
So you can put your back against the, so you have a longer time, to watch. It moves kind of slow, so.
Yeah.
So don't think that you're going this way and the picture's this way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's to the side.
Yeah, the picture's up there, and you went from right to left.
Yeah.
Across. So Juan Diego rushes to see the bishop. And actually, I was just reading in here that when he got there, the people said, they weren't going to let him in the first time, second time, third time. When he got there, he had the tilma. And they said, what do you have in there? And so he showed them one rose. And when they tried to touch it, it would disappear, or the roses would disappear. Something I just read. And flowers are truth. The bishop had asked for a sign from heaven. I'll cover that a little bit with flowers. Also, to the Aztecs, flowers meant truth. So back in the like 400 years before Cortez landed, or way, way before then, when the Aztecs were just getting together, there was a myth that said to look for a place with an eagle eating a snake perched on a cactus. And this is the symbol of the flag of Mexico, with the eagle eating the snake on the cactus. And myth also told him to placate the sun. There's always a battle between the moon and the sun. To placate the sun by offering hearts and blood, which is a constant ritual. And there was a constant fight between the sun and the moon. And in the winter solstice, around December 15th to 21st, when the sun was the lowest in the sky and a very short time, they would increase their offering to the sun god to they thought the sun god was asking for more hearts to make sure that the sun came back and was come back into the sky for spring and summer and all that.
Is an offering and a sacrifice the same thing?
Yeah, I would think so. Oh, well, in that sense, yeah. An offering can be $1 or an offering can be a sacrifice of a lamb. So an offering doesn't have to be a sacrifice, but an offering can be a sacrifice. So 400 years before Cortez landed, he came on, and I think they said that the emperor was told that some men had landed in floating houses, and one was dressed precisely as the returning god, which was Cortez. So he was all blessed in black, and he had a beard, and this god was supposed to return back, and the civilization would fall after that. So they were really distraught because supposedly this god came back. But they did defeat him in 1519. But he returned again in 1521 and had help of the other natives there to conquer the Aztecs. So when the missionaries came there were many Indian dialects, and you had the Aztec, and you had all the natives that they had conquered and were the slaves. So if a priest wanted to talk to an Aztec, he'd have to talk to an Indian that knew Spanish and his Indian dialect, and then he would have to talk to another Indian that knew that dialect and the Aztec dialect. So they had to use two interpreters. So it was very, very hard for the missionaries to preach, to evangelize. And then, of course, there was smallpox that killed half of all the Indians, just like in North America. Well, up in North America includes Mexico. So anyway, up in the northern areas. And of course, the Spaniards enslaved the Indians. They were cruel to him. And, how could you have a missionary tell you this is a loving God, and then now you are being made slave by these same people? And they begin to commit suicide. So after the conquest, the bishop here thought that there was a bloody revolt that was coming. So he prayed for help, and he asked for roses as a sign. So when the Indians, you look at those calendars and it's all kind of figures on it, stuff like that. And so they wrote in codes and pictures, and that's how they saw things. So they weren't looking for letters like we're looking when we look at something. And so they came from far away to look at this picture on the tilma. And they knew that the lady spoke their dialect because she had been speaking to Juan Diego, who was one of the Indians. And he was Aztec, he was converted. And all the codes in this picture that I'll go over, unlike meanings of expected events of these 400 years earlier that they were looking for this myth to happen, these events to happen. And of course, Juan's name meant eagle that speaks. So anything that had feathers was from heaven. Anything that was ground was earthly. And his name meant eagle that speaks, or a divine messenger. So Mary wanted the temple at Tepeyac, and that was the hill where the Indians had worshipped the mother of all gods. They thought the moon was God, the sun was a god, there was a mother of gods. And you got to realize back then, you didn't have all the science that we have now. So they looked up at the sky, and that was gods, and the stars and earthquakes and so forth. So, okay.
Sorry.
Adela didn't.
And I thought, and okay, when you read that, did you see, so too much going on.
Yeah. So Guadalupe, the word itself is really an Arabic word that means unity and motherhood. And
Arabic?
Arabic. Yeah, that's what I read here. I mean, there's I have to look at that again. Anyway, so Mary was carrying the true God and overriding into mankind. So she was coming back, and mankind wasn't going to end just because Cortez appeared and he had all the features of this God that supposedly was coming back, and the world would end. So going over all the codes. So when they looked at this, they saw her hands folded in supplication. So she was praying. So she wasn't the God. She was praying to the God. And she appears as an Aztec princess. She has the color, the mestizo color between the Aztec natives and the Spanish people. So
I left her, her grandmother was mestizo.
yeah. So that hadn't, when she appeared, that really hadn't happened too much, because the Spaniards hadn't really married, if you will, to the Indians, and had children that had the mestizo color. So she was kind of showing what would be. And there was probably enough to know that, hey, yeah, when you have a Spaniard, which is pretty white and blue-eyed, and an Aztec, it's the brown, and they come together, and the children have the mestizo color. She was ahead of the times on that. She was greater than the sun because she's blocking the sun rays. The sun rays are behind her. She's eclipsing the sun. She's greater than the moon because the moon is black. She's over the moon. She's standing on the moon, but she's praying, and her eyes are looking down. So she is not the God. She's praying to the God. So you have these coronas of the flowers in shape of the hill. So that's the picture on the top right. You see the flower with the hill shape. And then you see below that the flower, the stems that turn like a river, flow like a river. So the hill symbolized protection, and the rivers symbolize life. So thus mountain water is civilization, and the flowers have a pointed end, which shows, really emphasizes the mountain point. And the temple on the hill is, again, high celestial truth. So the signs. So only royalty could have a cape. Only royalty could wear a color. It was interesting when I had the change of priests when I was at St. Thomas Aquinas. I was a business manager there. The priest before had signed some things in a blue ink. And the priest coming in from India, they were both from India, he came in and he said, hey, he can't sign stuff from blue ink. Only high officials can sign, not blue ink, but a red ink, I think. They can't use a purple ink or a red ink. He can't do that. He was all upset that the priest before him was signing something in a different color. So only royalty could wear that color. Stars show, again, heavenly origin. And she had a gold necklace that shows sanctity. And there's a black cross on the brooch on her neck that shows that she was in unity with the missionaries. So the bow, the black bow is a sign of virginity, also shows that she's with child. And the bow also has like four petal flower or plenitude or new life. And the angel supporting her shows royalty as only royalty would be carried. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the Indians could look at that and go,
Yeah.
boom, royalty, plenitude, pregnant, angel, head of the sun. So her hair was worn down like a virgin. She's steps on the evil eclipse. When the moon eclipsed the sun, that was, oof, you know, they didn't know if the sun was going to come back. So she's stepping on the moon saying, hey, you know, I got it covered. No pun intended. Other foot is dancing or prayer. A lot of, when they're prayers, they would be dancing, okay? Over the womb is a four-pointed flower, which shows divinity in the center of the universe, the Aztecs. And she had fur cuffs on her sleeves, shows again royalty. The angel has an old man face to show that, you know, he has been around, he knows what's coming. It's not a kid that didn't know what was going on. The angel has eagle wings, not wings of a pigeon or whatever. And the eagle could fly to the sun. The eagle could take messages all the way to the sun. The eagle could fly high. He's holding the cape and the dress. It shows that there was a unity between the cape would be more earthly. I mean, the dress would be more earthly, and the cape would be more royal, and the blue color was heavenly. And so that would mean that the son is both from heaven and earth. Her baby that she was pregnant would be both from heaven and earth. And of course, Juan Diego, Juan is John. St. John was the evangelist telling everybody all about Jesus. And here's Juan or John Diego helping to spread the faith. So Mary came on December 12th, which was getting close to the solar, what is it? It's a time when there's the sun is the least, all right? I can't think of that.
Is it solstice?
Solstice.
Is that it?
Solstice is when it's, yeah, the winter solstice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sun is lowest in the sky and the day is shorter. That's around December. It's when we go from autumn to winter. And so Mary's was a Jesus' sacrifice. She was a mother to the son. The son was sacrificed for all, and there would be no more human sacrifices. So when the missionaries got this across, they say, you don't have to keep sacrificing all the time. Jesus did it once. And so you're covered by that single sacrifice. You don't have to have continual sacrifices. Later on in 1544, there was a great drought. And usually that would say, hey, there's a drought. We need to start sacrificing, killing people and taking their hearts out. But they had, all the children had a pilgrimage to the shrine up at the Tepeyac. And the drought went away. So that also helped convert the Indians. And again, her mestizo look was a symbol of unity between the Spaniards and the Indians. So scientifically, so they said, you know, so what if it's been around, you know, 100 years? We could make one out of this cactus plant and it'll do the same. But it only lasted about 10 years and it started fading right away. So the colors here over 500 years have never faded.
Yeah.
Even though the tilma was just hung up on the wall, exposed to air, people touching it, rubbing it with their handkerchiefs and cloths and crosses and everything to be touched to Mary. And again, like I said earlier, the back is rough, the front is smooth like silk. So you can see on here on the top right where the acid was spilt. And it didn't damage the colors or anything. It rolled down, but the colors were still there. What one?
No, I got one.
No, I was talking to Bud. So it didn't burn through the cloth or anything. I mean, again, this was just a cactus fiber. And there was a bomb in 1921. The guy brought in a bunch of sticks of dynamite, stuck it right underneath the picture. And when the bomb went off, it broke windows like blocks away, broke those windows. But it didn't break the glass in front of the picture, no effect. The marble on the floor cracked. This cross was bent backwards, but the whole picture, nothing happened. Of course, the fabric is nearly 500 years old. I guess that would be in 2031. And in 1979, they did a study and they can't find any paint on it. It's like the paint is floating above the fibers. And they don't know how the colors are there. They don't know what the colors are made of. They don't know how the pigment is there. Usually when you paint something on canvas, you treat it first so it'll absorb the paint and the paint won't run and stuff. And so it was not treated with any technique. And the image changes colors with what angle you're looking. So this is similar to, I don't know if I have that later on, like some types of birds, the image changes on their wings with how you're looking at it. The eyes have the refractive characteristics of a human eye. The angle makes a difference on, the curvature of the eye makes a difference on what you see. So when they're looking at this, they can see pictures in the eye, but of what they saw, but the eyes have a curvature. The pictures have a curvature.
That's one thing I couldn't understand that when I was listening to that.
Yeah,
anatomy, he was explaining that.
Yeah.
I still don't grasp what you mean, that curvature.
So the curvature of your eye.
Mm.
So if I got a picture like this and I curve it, so when you look at the eye, some things are going to look closer and some things are going to look far away, and there'll be a distortion of the picture, right? So if you ever looked at pictures with a fisheye lens, no? So sometimes they use that a lot in movies. So it makes things, it gets a more of a view, but they're kind of curved out, and the things in front are really in focus, and the things over here kind of get out of focus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that curvature is what is in there. I think I had something on that. A little better explanation about what the refraction was.
That's all three refractive characteristics.
Okay, I'll look at that a little bit. So here they're studying the eye up close. And the pupils have a detailed picture on them, and they can see there's like 13 people in different proportions, and you couldn't paint that by hand. So when you blow it up, you see this. I don't know about seeing the 13 people in there, but you can see how detailed that is compared to this blow up of the eyeball. So that, so maybe the eye is like that big, and then they blew it up and then they blew up that, just, you can't paint that. So when you look at the the face and the hands, they have kind of a gray cake look like on this picture. And it's in the coloring like of a bird and butterfly scale. So when you see the butterfly, the wings kind of shimmer. But when you look close to the butterfly, you would see this kind of grayish thing. So when you back away from the picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe, you see it in color. But if you're right up, it just looked gray.
Almost like mosaics, you know, they could put mosaic, you know, not they, but this, they said scales. you
Uh-huh.
know, So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, on that slide, you could tell that in person. but-
Yep. So they show here why the constellations were the same as December 12th, 1531. Again, no brush strokes. And the stitch in the center holds the tilma together, and stitch goes all the way like over her left ear. So the head is tilted, otherwise the stitching would have gone right through her face. So in Spain, I think I went over this on some of the apparitions. You have a Lady of Guadalupe there also. And in 1326, and when the Spanish bishop in Mexico was saying, this is what we think is Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's a different, it's more of a Aztec word. But when they heard it in Spain, they said, oh, Guadalupe, that we already have Our Lady of Guadalupe over here. So she must be appearing over there also. So it kind of got, they took what the Aztec word and made it a little different, sounded like Guadalupe. And this statue was supposedly carved by St. Luke and given to St. Leander, who was the Archbishop of Seville. So it was given to the Pope, and then he gave it to Seville, the Bishop of Seville. And there's the carving. And Mary appeared to a shepherd near the village, said, have priests come and dig. And when they dug, they found the strong box that had been put in there in the year 700. And that's about the time that the Moors, the Arabs had been starting to come through Spain. So they didn't want this relic to hang. They didn't want this relic to be captured. So they buried it and some of the vestments and stuff like that in a box. So after 600 years, Mary told them where that is, and they pulled it out and built a shrine there. And you see how they covered these, the statue with the dresses and so forth. So we're going to talk about iconography. When you look at an icon, the colors are very important. So in the Russian Orthodox, they use bright colors, but the Greek kind of uses more muted colors. Okay. What they used before, the paint used to be made with egg and things from the earth. They give it a muted and a faded color. But acrylic is used now to do these paintings. And you have to study for many years to be able to do iconography, to know how to portray these things. So red is an earth color, blue is a heavenly color. So they're both used in the garments of Mary and Jesus at the front. Have you ever been in an Orthodox church? No. So the front of the church is kind of a screen. And at a certain part of the Mass, they open the screens so you can see the altar and stuff, I guess, after the readings, if I remember. It was 30 years ago, I went to one. And they have the icons of Mary on the, if you're looking at the altar, you see an icon of Mary on the left and Jesus on the right, and then other saints, maybe the saint of that parish. So Mary's dress is blue, which is a heavenly color, because she had Jesus in her womb and her head is covered with the red because she's an earthly person. Jesus, on the other hand, he's garment is blue and his inner is red, symbolizing his heavenly presence. Okay. But he's also earthly. And there is the iconostasis. So this is, like I said, a screen. The altar is behind this screen, and then they open the doors when Mass starts. I think like they'll maybe, if I remember, like 1 or 2 doors, and then after the gospel reading and stuff, then they open the other doors to you can see the Mass. And you can see Mary's picture on the left and Jesus is on the right. Then you have some apostles and patriarchs and so forth.
Don't only certain people can go through certain doors, like the priest comes through one door, but no one else can come. Something about the doors. Right.
Okay. Okay, the subject is typically portrayed full frontal. So either the whole body or just the face or the top half of the body. They look directly at the viewer, and they were designed to communicate with the divine. So you're looking at that picture to get your mind saying, okay, this is a picture of Jesus. So they want it not to be what you see nowadays as a picture of Jesus. They want it to be a replica, if you will, of Jesus, to get your mind not looking at this picture.
Like you're talking to this person,
Yeah.
not looking at what they're doing.
So pictures have a halo around them to emphasize their holiness. And every once in a while you have a whole narrative scene. Okay, so there could be like 5 icons with the angel appearing to Mary, Mary appearing to Saint Elizabeth, the birth, the presentation, and so forth. A whole series of icons. They were again for devotional purpose to help people understand the figures they were praying to and bridge between the divine and your prayers and yourself. So they aren't supposed to look realistic or show bustle or forms like religious paintings. They're not supposed to be beautiful. They're supposed to be spiritual. This thing must be on automatic over here. So when you come into the church, you don't want to be distracted and see big muscles. This is the guy that's the specialist, Guitar Soros. He's a specialist on icons. No shadows, no depth, no perspective on it. It's just flat, and to give you an idea of the character rather than the whole form. So, any questions so far? You see, this is a whole thing. Let me see if I was at some there. The God that was to return was depicted as dressed in black with a beard, wearing a golden helmet, and wearing a cross. All that was in the myth 400 years before Cortez appeared. And of course, Cortez had all those. And when the smallpox came, the Aztecs thought that they were being punished by their God after being faithful. They began to commit suicide. They started to believe the prediction that the end of the civilization had come because Cortez had landed with these characteristics, dressed in black with a beard and so forth. Of course, the cruelty of the Spaniards helped depress the Aztecs. So when the tilma came along, it gave them a new reason to live, a new life, because now they could see that they were part of the whole picture. Anytime someone sent a message, they accompanied the messages with flowers, because flowers were the symbol of truth. So Mary is a Jewish name, meaning chosen by God, and Guadalupe, an Arabic name, thus uniting the two peoples that have lived in conflict. Whereas Luther's reform lost 8 million Catholics, in Mexico, she brought 9 million Indians back. Interesting. So they would come from far away, they would look at the tilma and say, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to be Catholic. I want to follow this lady, just looking at it. Let's see. Oh, the old man's face represents wisdom. That's why they had an old man. The hill symbolized protection and the water of life. And the flower depicted as mountain water represent a town or civilization. And Mary asked for a temple, and the temple meant civilization to the Aztecs. So now she's in this temple. So they're bringing back civilization to the Aztecs. She commensurated with all the Indian mothers who had given their children as in sacrifice as she did.
What about that line right in the middle?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's where the tilma was put together. It was sewn together. So I guess it was too difficult to make it all, to weave it all the way across. So they weave half of it and the other half, and then sew those two together.
It's like splicing something.
It's what?
Like splicing.
Yes, yeah. So
But
it's just,
see how it's not behind her, it's over her, it's through her, it's, I don't know how to explain it.
it's,
I was thinking something about the picture had been folded, had been folded. Was there like a crease or something?
Because he didn't have it folded when he was wearing it.
no,
It was
No,
just
but-
folded.
The way it was made.
but it's where the two pieces were sewn together all the way down. You can see it's exactly the center of the tilma. Front and back.
How big is that?
God, I had a replica. It's like this wide and maybe this big, something like that. The front picture. Does that sound about right, Sally?
It's
About that big?
kinda almost, I think it's way out.
Yeah.
when you look at- So
Yeah, but
I
yeah.
think if it was down, you'd almost be life size,
Yeah, I mean, because it was a.
like a small, small person. life
So,
size.
so if
Yeah,
I
I
was
was just
wearing the
wondering about the
tilma,
size.
it would be down here, so it'd be maybe that high,
But the
Right.
whole picture is.
and then
more
maybe
like-
this wide.
Okay.
These were very short people, so he wasn't very tall. So, but it it hung all the way down on
Yeah,
him.
it could have been to the ground, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so again, this is front and back. I made 10 copies, so if you want to give one to somebody. And,
I'll take one for Karen.
okay, so I brought this several times, but there's a whole series of these books called Beginning, let me put this in here, Beginning Apologetics. And this one I like because it says how to answer Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. So if you ever have a Jehovah's Witness come to your house, if you read this first, and then you can, you know, it'll tell you what to ask them, what they're going to say, you know, what you say back to them. So it's pretty interesting. Fire away, Kate.
67 by 41 inches.
67, so it's
So
5'7",
2 yards 6, by 41,
5'7", 67
Yeah.
by
41.
4 feet.
The whole picture.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
it says
wide.
41 inches wide, 67 inches
Yeah,
high.
so it's, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
like
it's
a
all-
smaller.
And like somebody standing right next to it. Like
Yeah. So that'd be just about life size then.
Yeah, and that's what it's shown like this guy.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you want whole books, a whole set of apologetics, there's like 9 books of these that I have, and they're real good. Okay. Anything else?
Eyes almost look swollen, don't they? I've always thought.